Today I'm going to rank the most popular types of martial arts kicks according to their effectiveness for the street. Becoming an amazing fighter takes a lot of dedication, and there are a lot of areas to train to be well-rounded. You got to train your stand-up game, your ground fighting, your clinching skills, your knife and club to weapon skills, your handgun use and disarms. And that's a lot of training to spread out. Bruce Lee said the goal of martial arts is not the daily accumulation, but the daily elimination. Get rid of all the non-essential techniques. By analyzing the strengths and weaknesses of each kick, we can help get clarity on where we should be spending our valuable training time. Now, before we look at each kick, it will really be helpful if we understand the areas of the body that we can attack and the effect that it will have on an opponent. Let's start with the most vulnerable area, and that is, of course, the testicles, by far and away. I mean, it makes sense. In mixed martial arts, you see all kinds of kicks land frequently, and they have a variety of results. Anything from a knockout to, well, not much at all. However, a testicle kick pretty much always causes a stoppage. Fighters are usually given a mandatory 5-minute rest. How much damage do you think you could do to someone in 5 minutes? Or could you escape in 5 minutes? See what I'm saying? Areas of the body that are a bit tougher, but generally still fairly vulnerable, would include things like the solar plexus, the head and neck, which of course includes the face. And while there are no guarantees, these areas usually stun someone, such as a really hard shot to the solar plexus. That can knock someone out of breath. A really good shot to the head could cause a knockout. Now, one more level down, we have kicks to the ribs and the knees. And what really determines if a strike to your opponent's ribs and their knees, whether that's going to be effective, is going to be a combination of your skill, the timing with which the blow lands, and your body mass versus theirs. If you're both around the same size, your kick could potentially crack their ribs or maybe wrench their knee, potentially ending the fight. But if you weigh 135 and they weigh 235, it might not go as well as you had hoped. But you take that same kick right up into the testicles of that larger man, and he's likely to drop like a sack of potatoes. Now, finally, we get to what is surely going to stoke up some controversy. Kicks to the thighs and lower legs. The legs are incredibly resilient. Look, anyone who's ever played a contact sport knows what I'm talking about. Having played soccer, I have been kicked, kneed, and cleated in the legs. And I would keep playing as if nothing had happened. Sure, the next day I'd have a bruise, scrapes, and tenderness in the area, but in that moment, putting that ball in the back of that stupid net was what mattered. And that's just a silly game. How much more focused on winning will you or your attacker be in a real violent fight? I'll be rating these kicks based upon the following criteria. Range. Does it keep you at a safe distance from counterpunches? The ease of application and timing required to effectively pull it off in a real fight, street fight. The level of skill, how long will it take you to get good at this kick? Is it going to be a year? Is it going to be 10 years? And very importantly, what's the effect it will have on the opponent? And all of this is going to lead us to a risk to reward ratio. Essentially, how risky is this kick to pull off versus its ability to end the fight? And of course, I'm going to make the assumption that you have or will actually be willing to put in the work to get combat ready with these kicks. Because if not, then you're just watching a video for entertainment and none of this means anything. The pendulum, or shuffle side kick, was popularized by Bruce Lee. In real life, it is used to target the opponent's lead knee or their midsection. It is the longest kick that you have and can keep your head the furthest away from a counterpunch. It also targets the closest target on your opponent, their front knee, making this a great kick for longer range if you're agile and you're willing to put in the reps to develop it. The key is to keep your head away as your feet shuffle or pendulum forward. This is a truly long range, in and out, fencing type of kick. This kick makes a great stop hit, meaning if you wait for an opponent to rush in, you can catch them on the way in with it solidly. It also makes a great offensive strike by first feinting a punch and then shuffling in with the kick. Now this kick cannot be used in close range. If you miss this kick, it's pretty easy to recover from as well. This is a medium skill kick. It's going to take you a little while to get good at, probably a couple years if you train it regularly. But if you're not willing to put in the time to really develop skill with these kicks, then move on. I'm going to show you some easier ones in a moment. If this kick lands on a locked knee with your opponent's full weight on it, odds are it's going to wrench the connective tissues in the knee bad enough to end the fight. On the other hand, if it lands on a bent knee without any of their weight on it, the effect will probably be minimal. If this kick hits the ribs, it has a really good chance of cracking some ribs and possibly ending the fight. If it hits the solar plexus, this is a powerful kick and it's going to drop someone. Since you can safely stay on the outside, the kick is easy to recover from even if you miss, and the high potential to end the fight, I am giving this kick an A. The rear leg front thrust kick shares a lot of the same advantages of that pendulum side kick. It's a fairly long range kick, not quite as long as the side kick. The key is to lean back as you thrust your hips forward, allowing you to stay effectively out of punching range. This kick is pretty easy to use against a very stationary opponent. Simply throw a fake punch to off balance your opponent and then fire that kick right into their midsection. It also makes a great stop kick when someone is rushing in. The skill level is a bit easier than the side kick, and for a fairly fit person, it shouldn't take them more than, say, about a year to get pretty good at. If this kick lands anywhere else on the body, it has a really good potential to knock someone down to the ground, or at least backwards off balance, where you can continue rushing in with a continued attack. Now, it doesn't have the agility or reach of the pendulum side kick, and it's not quite as easy to recover from if you miss. However, if it lands solidly, it can potentially end a fight or set up follow-up attacks. So I think this is a really good kick, and I'm going to give it an A. The oblique stomp kick is really just that same rear leg front thrust kick targeted at the knee. You have to turn your foot obliquely to create a perpendicular angle, or else you're likely going to slip off of the target. Turning the foot obliquely means you cannot extend your hips as far forward, making this essentially a close range strike, causing you to lose all of the advantages of kicking range. If you use this kick as a surprise attack, especially from behind, then it's a pretty easy kick to land. But against a fast-moving opponent who's firing punches at your face, it's not so easy. Skill-wise, it's one of the easiest kicks you can do. It's literally just like stomping on a soda can. In fact, with very little training, most people could generate enough power to wrench the heck out of someone's knee. The problem with this kick is that it can only be used in very close range. And typically in close range, you're either dealing with wild swinging punches or you're already in a clinch. In either one of those cases, I wouldn't want to be throwing a kick due to the risk of losing your balance or getting punched in the face. In terms of opportunities to use this kick, I'd give it a D. But since it's so easy to perform, and there could be chances to use it in certain positions, I wouldn't throw it away. I still think it has its uses. Good thing is, you really don't need to practice it much because it's so easy to do. The oblique snap kick is our first snapping kick on the list. It looks a lot like its stomp kick cousin, except it snaps out with the intention to hit your opponent's shin or knee with the inside of your shoe's sole. Just like that oblique stomp kick, you must be in quite close range, which means it has no advantage of range. This kick is super easy to do, and it's super easy to land. Here is where we run into problems. This kick delivers basically no power against a super resilient target, the shin. I mean, hell, Muay Thai fighters are smashing their shins into people all freaking day long. This is a tough area of the body. In effect, it really doesn't do anything. Now, some people might argue that this kick can cause pain, and maybe it might if you have like a really hard sole on your shoe, but every kick on this list is going to cause pain and also damage, have better range, and have the potential to end the fight. I see absolutely no reason for this kick to exist, and I award it with this list's first F. If you disagree with me, we can still be friends. Here we go, the darling of sport martial arts world, quite possibly the most ubiquitous kick ever. This is a fairly medium range kick, and it's going to vary slightly based upon whether you target the leg, the body, or the head. You will definitely be in counterpunch range, especially if you're attacking the leg, so make sure to keep those hands up. This kick aimed at the body or the leg is pretty easy to land, especially against a slow-moving opponent who does not have good footwork and isn't used to defending this kick. When aimed at the body, it can be easy to catch, so you got to be careful. When targeting the head, it can really come out of nowhere and be a pretty cool surprise-like kick, especially if it's coming after a punch where someone's worried about that punch and boom, that kick comes out of nowhere. You do see that in MMA all the time. However, in the chaos of a street fight, head kicks are really risky as you can easily get knocked off balance and fall if you have an aggressive opponent who's rushing in. This is a medium skill kick. It'll take you a couple years to get pretty good at. I'd score it next to the side kick and front thrust kick, although hitting the head height will definitely take you a little bit longer to achieve that skill-wise, especially if you're not already pretty flexible. This kick to the thigh or lower leg, well, it has a cumulative effect. If you keep landing these repeatedly over the course of several rounds, your opponent will start slowing down as their leg starts to cramp or go numb. Herein lies our problem. A street fight is over in seconds, not the 12th minute of the third round. When aimed at the legs, you're putting yourself on one leg in punching range in order to hopefully land a shot that any tough individual will be able to walk right through. It is never worth landing a leg kick if you eat a punch to the face. I challenge you emotionally to detach yourself from your favorite techniques and begin thinking purely pragmatically like a Vulcan. In sports like MMA and Muay Thai, this kick is an absolute necessity. For sure, 100%. But for the street, I rank it a D. The lead leg roundhouse kick is a versatile and accurate snapping kick that can target the testicles, the solar plexus, or the head. If you use that same pendulum or shuffling footwork that we did with our pendulum side kick, this becomes a far more effective kick. You can keep your head back to maximize your distance from your opponent's punching range. It won't be quite as good as a side kick since the targets you're aiming for, the testicles and solar plexus, are further into the opponent, whereas the knee is further out from the opponent. But it still has the ability for you to kind of fence from far distance, getting in and getting out quickly. This kick is pretty easy to land against the testicles and the solar plexus. Just fire off a fake jab, shuffle in with your kick, pop, shuffle right back out to safety. If you aim for the head, it inherits the same risks that all head kicks do. I will say this, it's far easier to recover from a lead leg roundhouse kick than it is from some of the other head kicks. This is pretty medium easy kick, I'll say, especially if you're aiming for the testicles. I'd say it's 6 months you're going to be pretty good with this kick if you practice it regularly. I would personally only train this kick along with that pendulum footwork to make it a very effective long-range weapon. With the ability to quickly get in and out with even less commitment than the pendulum side kick, this pendulum version of the lead leg roundhouse kick is dynamite. When aimed at the testicles, I'm going to give it an S. When aimed at the body, it gets a B. As for the head, you probably shouldn't be throwing head kicks in a street fight. Whenever I think of the rear leg front snap kick, I always envision Anderson Silva popping someone right in the jaw. This is probably the one high kick that I think you could potentially do in the street, but I'd much rather you target it to the testicles. The range is going to be medium, similar to the rear leg roundhouse kick. That means you better keep your hands up, as you're going to be close enough to get counterpunched. You can lean back to some degree to give yourself some extra reach. If you simply take your rear leg up into someone's groin, this is probably the easiest kick ever. Frankly, targeting the solar plexus isn't that much harder. Even under the jaw isn't too terribly tough, as long as your opponent isn't taller than you, and even better if they're shorter. It's a pretty low skill kick that nearly anyone can pull off. As with any kick, if you throw a fake punch to distract your opponent first, then this kick is going to have a high likelihood of hitting its target. Now, you don't have quite the advantage of being on the outside of your opponent's punching range. However, the skill is so low, the targets are so easy to hit, and the targets have such a high fight-ending potential that this kick becomes a no-brainer. If aimed at the testicles, this kick gets an S. If aimed at the solar plexus, I'll give it an A or maybe a B. I said you probably shouldn't do head kicks, but if you're going to use one, this might be the kick to do. Okay, so our final category of kicks is going to encapsulate a variety of kicks that I will lump together. We've got spinning kicks, crescent kicks, axe kicks, tornado kicks, jumping, spinning, flying kicks. While there is some variety in the range, most of them are medium range kicks, which means you're going to be in counterpunching range. Pretty much all the kicks on this list are super hard to pull off in real life. Some are harder than others. The timing is going to be like a Hollywood movie level, so it needs to be choreographed with your opponent before you do it. Good luck with that. It could take you 10 or more years to get good enough with these kicks to be badass with them against a stationary heavy bag, and you might still not be able to use them in the street. A sport tournament, perhaps, but even there they're risky. Some of these kicks actually have a really high knockout potential because they typically target the head with whipping power. Some can even crack the ribs like a spinning back kick. But why would you do these complex, hard to pull off, super risky kicks that take years and decades to get good at when there are so many other good options out there that do the same or more damage, don't put you in nearly as much danger, and only take a year or two to get good at? All of the kicks in these category, I give an F. However, I will give an honorary super ultra mega badass plus if you actually pull one of them off in a legit street fight. Please make sure to film it. JK, don't do that, lose the fight, and then sue me because I said you should go around doing dumb shit. Okay, recommendation time. If you are not very athletic or agile, then the only kick that I recommend you practice is the rear leg front snap kick to the testicles. If you are committed to regular training, then I would throw in the lead leg pendulum or shuffle roundhouse snap kick to the testicles. If you're a lifelong martial artist and looking to add in another kick to your arsenal, then either the pendulum or shuffling side kick or the rear leg front thrust kick would make a great addition. At this point, you now have a well-rounded arsenal. But if you really just want to practice more, for whatever reason, I would throw in the rear leg roundhouse kick, if for no other reason than because it is so ubiquitous. Personally, I don't ever practice applying this kick in a real fight because I don't think it's all that effective. But I like to maintain it just because I'm a martial arts instructor. I need to be able to do, different kinds of kicks and stuff. Finally, if you still want to practice the fancy kicks that I talked about, I highly caution you against training them with application, such as in sparring or reality-based drills. As Tony Blauer says, be careful what you practice. You might get really good at doing the wrong thing. Tell me in the comments how you would rate any of these kicks, and let me know if I missed one that you like. Until next time, folks, go train and become a warrior.